Hello, everyone, and welcome to Supporting Your First Year Student, a webinar with everything you need to know information-wise for parents, families, and supporters. Next slide, please. Before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the history of the land on which Queen's University is located. As Canadians, we have a collective responsibility to recognize the injustices committed against Indigenous peoples who have lived on and cared for this land long before the arrival of European settlers. Queen's Campus, where I'm joining you from today, and which you can see in the picture here, is situated on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee peoples. The Kingston area, originally known as Cataraqui, has been home to Indigenous communities for thousands of years and remains a place of significance and ongoing relationship for many Indigenous peoples today. As a student, I am grateful for the opportunity to live, work, and study on this land as an uninvited guest. It is important to understand that Queen's, like many institutions in Canada, was established through colonial systems that displaced Indigenous communities. As a settler and a guest, I carry responsibility to reflect on that history and to contribute to a more just, inclusive, and respectful future. If this is new to you or you'd like to learn more, I encourage you to explore the resources offered by the Office of Indigenous Initiatives and the Four Directions Indigenous Student Center, both online and on campus here at Queen's. Thank you for taking a moment to reflect with me. Next slide, please. I would love to begin by introducing myself to you. My name is Maddie. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a concurrent education student entering my final year of my Bachelor of Education this fall with teachables in history and geography. I've also been the SOAR, or Summer Orientation Student Lead, within the Student Experience Office this summer. Throughout my undergraduate journey at Queen's, my experience has been heavily marked by involvement within the Queen's community. And I have found an unparalleled sense of friendship, empathy, drive, and passion throughout these different leadership, volunteer, and experiential learning opportunities that I've been privileged to be a part of. As you will come to learn, there are so many chances and opportunities for your student to embrace their unique passions during their time here at Queen's. And I'm very excited to have the opportunity to be your host for this evening's webinar. Today, you will hear about some of the common experiences of being the parent or supporter of a student who is coming to attend Queen's University this fall, and what can be helpful for you to know. We want you to leave today's webinar with the confidence that you can and will be a great support for your student. There will be an opportunity to ask questions and share comments at the end of this webinar. If you have anything you'd like to ask, please put it in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and we will get to them throughout and at the end of this webinar. Please note that this webinar is also being recorded and will be available on the Student Experience Office's First Year Foundation Summer Webinars page in the next few business days. Now, I will pass it along to our main speaker for today, Kathy Keats, the Assistant Dean of Student Affairs. Kathy has worked with university students for over 20 years, most recently for 12 years at Queen's, leading award-winning teams who provide support for students' career paths, academic skills development, orientation and transition to university, mentoring, and more. Kathy is a recipient of the Queen's Special Recognition for Staff Award and is very committed to finding ways to ensure all students are supported in their unique paths. Over to you, Kathy.
Thank you, Maddie, and thank you for getting us started this evening. For those of you joining us, it's my pleasure to welcome you to the Queen's community, whether you were a Queen's student here yourself in the past, or you've already had a student here, or maybe you've never been to campus before, or any campus. Whether you're connected already or you're just connecting with us now, we're thrilled that you're here at this exciting time in the life of your student. As you've heard from Maddie, I work here. That's why I'm here tonight, but I'm wearing a second hat this evening, and that is the hat of a parent. My son just graduated from Queen's in June, which was a very exciting day in our life. But what that also means is that 5 years ago, when he was starting, I was just where you folks were. That summer before he's heading off to Queen's. And I'm guessing that many, if not all of you, are maybe feeling some of the same things that I and my partner were feeling then. So things like excitement, pride, but also maybe some nerves and wondering about how this was all going to go. Maybe asking questions like the kinds of things we were asking, like, will he be okay? Right? Will he make a friend? Will he keep up? Will he be lost? And then some also things like, will I be okay? How much am I going to miss him? Will he answer my texts? And how many texts is too many in a day to check in on him? And I know from talking to parents over the years, these are pretty common questions and concerns. I love the post-secondary environment. The university experience is just such an exciting time of life where young people get to form their thoughts and opinions, learn, grow, develop, be challenged, find and hone their passions that then turn into their futures, their careers, and the other things they do after they graduate. And my goal tonight is to help you get a little bit of a glimpse of what they might experience when they're just first coming here. I hope that you'll leave with a sense of how much of a supportive community Queen's is for our students, and that you leave taking a breath, that the questions and the experiences are normal and supported, and we can do this together. Next slide, please. So a few notes about the first days. So if this is not your first student coming to university and you've got this experience, you already know a lot of these things, but I hope some of these are good reminders. And you already know, each student is unique, right? If you have multiple in your family, they're all going to have their own path. They've all had their own path and journey so far. But whatever their personality is, it's pretty natural for students to feel a bit overwhelmed in those first days and first weeks. Some students join in immediately. They start to get involved. They're out there. Others hang back a bit. Neither of those two patterns are necessarily better than the other. Don't be surprised if your otherwise outgoing student seems to be a bit hanging back and calls you after drop off and says, I'm not sure if I fit in. That's really common. It can take time to find your groove in any new setting. And this is a new setting for students. No one expects that they're going to figure that out on day one. For some students, some things start clicking right away. They might hit it off right away with someone who's on their floor in residence, for example. But for other students, it's going to take a little bit longer for them to find their sea legs here. Students are coming here from Queen's from a wide variety of backgrounds and places from across Canada, but also from all around the world. And it's a great environment where we encourage folks to get this opportunity to chat with people with different backgrounds and experiences. And we really respect and celebrate that diversity of our community. And inside of those conversations, they're going to bump into things that spark that feeling of belonging for them. It might be just a chat with someone in the hall, or it might be a formal event like our new Friday night community football game that's happening in orientation. And for other students, it might be after, those, fun social things. And when they go to their first days of class, and that's when they're like, here's where I want to be. I'm in the place for me. All of those things are normal. And I regularly hear from students in that first little bit that they feel like everybody else around them seems to have it all together. And they have this sense that somehow it's just them. But then they realize that everybody is probably feeling those things. They're feeling overwhelmed, they're feeling nervous, and reminding your student of that on the surface, it can seem like around them, everyone knows what to do. They've got things figured out, they're comfortable, but they're all in the same boat. They're all getting adjusted to something big and something new. And some of the best advice then is to take those little risks and getting out and get those experiences so that you can bump into people and start establishing a daily routine of getting up, having that structure, going out, participating in the things around them through orientation, and then through once classes start as well. Next slide, please. So as they're going through this first little bit, one slide back, please. We'll be, I think. Nope. Okay, we'll stick on that slide. So I'm going to talk a little bit about people that they could ask on these first few days. And so as you go through those first experiences, you might be like, I think my student needs to connect with some folks to ask some questions, to get some encouragement, to get some information and resources and supports. Who might you remind them is out there? So if your student is in residence, the first line is we always encourage them to maybe talk to their Don. Their Dons are upper year students who have usually themselves lived in residence. They've been through all of this. They're a great right there resource for your students to talk to. If your student's not in residence, the equivalent of the Don in the first year off-campus community are their upper year peer leaders who can do the same kind of thing. In addition to those folks who are around where they live, we also have thousands of faculty orientation leaders. These are upper year students who are leading the formal orientation activities at the university. They've gotten a lot of training. They know a lot about what happens at the university in terms of programs and resources and services. They're a great source of information for your student, and they're going to get to know those people as soon as they start going to their orientation events. If you haven't already, your student might be interested in registering for Q Success, which is our first year peer mentoring program. And this is where students can register, they can look through mentor profiles and pick what they're looking for in terms of an upper year student who will be their person. So over the next little while, their person who's going to check in with them, who can help them understand what happens at Queen's, how to find things, and also just be that person in their court, right? Their cheerleader and their role model of you can get through this here, and sharing things that person experienced in their first year transition as well. That Q Success program runs all year, so don't worry if you haven't registered yet, but I know hundreds of students already have. We've got lots more space. We get amazing feedback from the students who participate in that. Okay, next slide. Now I'm in the right place. So I want to talk a bit about community and citizenship and what that means here at Queen's and what that will mean for your student and some of the conversations you might want to be having with your student now and also once they get here. So once your student is here, they're going to need to be balancing, of course, their academic life and their social life. And all of those, both of those things are important to have a fulsome life. And it's important to get involved and go out with friends and join clubs and do other things. But of course, it's also critically important to keep up with academics and to prioritize that as well. And it can be challenging for students to figure out the right mix. And it's okay for us as their supporters to remind them to keep working towards that balance. As they make those decisions about what and how they're going to do things in particular in their social lives and the things they do outside of the classroom, we really want to make sure that every student is safe, is respected, and is respectful, is true to themselves, and gets involved in community that works for them. They're likely to experience the university as a more independent and less structured environment than perhaps what they've been used to. With that additional independence and lack of structure, which is both exciting and a great opportunity for development, it also comes with that additional responsibility that then students take on for making their own decisions, structuring their time. And we've got lots of resources to help if students are struggling with time management, but also thinking about the choices that they're making. The choices that they're making about things like relationships, sex, consent, substance use or not use, alcohol and other drugs. So to just go into those a little bit right now, in terms of consent and sexual violence, this is something that we take really seriously here, that we want to make sure our students are safe. You have probably already noticed that first year students are required to complete a training before they come to campus. It's called It Takes All of Us. Your student will have received a few emails about it by now. Hopefully they've done it. Some have, but if they haven't, there's still time. And please, you can follow up and check on them around whether they've done that. And that program focuses on sexual violence prevention and education, consent, bystander intervention, and supporting survivors. And so not only is it a great thing for students to do, it also, as a parent or supporter, could provide a good opportunity for you to use this as a conversation starter. to say to your student, what did you think of that? What are your takeaways? What do you think they covered? What did they not cover? Do you have other questions? How are you feeling about these kinds of topics as you head out to the university? Also related to community and citizenship, I want to talk a little bit about our expectations about all students as new members and citizens of our community here. And your student is now a member of both the Queens community and also the Kingston community. And for those of you who are familiar with Kingston or have been to campus, you know that Queens is right in Kingston, right? We're embedded in the community. We have what we call our near campus neighborhoods right around us. And there's lots of great things about that. My office hears regularly from local residents and neighbors of the campus around great things that our students do. They are highly involved in volunteerism, do have lots of jobs in the community, and then also wonderful things like when a local senior says, my student neighbors shoveled out my driveway. I didn't even ask them. They just noticed that there had been a big snowfall and I hadn't gotten out, and they just did it for me. So we hear wonderful things. However, you can imagine that we also hear things that aren't as wonderful. And like many campuses in Canada, there's a history of some large off-campus gatherings that are of big concern for our neighbors and for the city around us. In response to that, excuse me, the city has stepped up things like noise, alcohol, and party-related bylaw enforcement. And there are significant fines, especially at particular times of the years, up to $2,000. So we do a lot to educate students about this. And we think it might be something you want to talk about with your students as well, is that during, in particular, at the start of the school year and during, homecoming and St. Patrick's Day and other sort of times when some of these parties happen, there are more police and bylaw officers who are out and around in our near campus neighborhoods, including soon is something called the University District Safety Initiative. So that's a Kingston initiative, or UDSI. And the goal is to keep the streets clear and to promote safety. That's going to start to be in effect from Thursday, August the 28th, until Sunday, September 7th at the startup of the school year. If you want to learn more about that, you can Google it, and the City of Kingston has information about that. Really important that students know that. And just in general, the idea is to be a good neighbor, and our neighbors are good to us, and we want to be good to them and take that responsibility seriously. Next slide, please. So let's go now to some key things around student success. Of course, students have come here for the extracurricular and the great social experiences they're going to have and the friendships they're going to make. And also they are, of course, here to be students. And university academic work is different than high school work. I'm sure you know that and have heard that before, that there is an increase in both the quality of the work and the sophisticated complexity of the work that's required, and also the quantity and volume of work. All students coming to Queens have strong academic skills. That's how they got here. That is great. But in the coming term, it would be normal to expect that no matter how strong you were in high school, there's going to be a transition to figuring out how to use your skills here, how to use, as I already said, in this more independent kind of environment, how to adjust to the nature of the learning here. It is normal for students to experience lower than expected marks, in particular at the very startup. And so you can, as a parent and supporter, help your students understand this is common. You can help them distinguish between what I call disappointment and devastation. It is normal for some of the first things to come back, that first assignment, the first quiz, for them to not perform as well as they were really hoping to. That is a disappointment. It does not need to be devastating. It is not career ending. There are lots of things they can do and steps they can take after that as a learning experience and figuring out how to hone their skills. Their professors want to help them with that. Their teaching assistants want to help them with that. Our staff and academic success skills want to help them with that. And one of the number one things they can do is encourage your students to go to class. Go to their classes, engage in the learning, use the instructor's office hours, which is basically drop-in time that instructors have so that the students can come in. ask questions, and get to know them. We're all here. There's a whole structure for supporting them and being successful. It can be rocky at the start. They can find those sea legs with that kind of support. Next slide, please. So I keep mentioning support, and so I want to be a little bit more concrete about some of the supports that we have. Now, those of you who've been attending webinars, as well as going online and things, you'll already be familiar with some of these, these kinds of things. We have 400 plus staff members in student affairs at Queen's, and they are in a whole host of offices. And here is a list of only some of them. And don't expect you to memorize these. Your students don't need to memorize these either. I just want to share this to say, if there's a challenge that they're facing or a topic they have a question about, there is likely an office and a person or multiple people who can help them with whatever that topic or question might be. We know that students bring their whole selves to their life here at Queen's. And for you as a parent or supporter, you don't need to memorize this either. At any point in the year, if you think there's something I think my student needs, and I know they talked about it sometime in SOAR, but for the life of me, I can't remember exactly what that was, what the name of the office was, how I'd get my student there. You can contact my office with an email address that is just parents@queensu.ca, and we'll help you find it. Just say, here's the question, here's the kind of thing I'm looking for. We'll get you to the right place. We love to get those kind of questions from you. So don't hesitate to use that. Okay, next slide, please. So thriving with your support. I'm going to share some of my concluding thoughts before we head on into the students sharing their great stories of what they've used. So, excuse me. I want to remind everyone, I'm sure you've heard this before, that once your student becomes a university student, they own their information. And we as staff at the university and faculty at the university cannot talk specifics with you as a parent about their marks or their personal information without their permission. And that is a big change, I know, as a parent, right? From elementary and secondary, right? So talk to your student about this. If they want to include you, they can let us know that on the SOLAS system. But our hope also is that they keep you informed, right? So that the two of you talk about those things and you don't need us to kind of come into that, right? And that helps them develop their own self-advocacy and manage things along the way. And you're there as a support and coach as they're doing that. In addition to you emailing our office if you have any questions where students can go, we always encourage you to encourage your student to take that step and to reach out, just like I shared before, to their Dawn or to their Q Success mentor, or they can contact my office too. We are happy to talk to students themselves, of course, anytime. We will then figure out the complexity of the university and get them to the right place, whether it's academic questions or personal questions. We are a great front door that they can come to and say, I just don't know where to go. We'll be like, I'm glad you found us. We'll get you to the next step. I'm going to end this part of it with a summary of what's most important. So the foundation of what's important for students is friends and community and engagement. We know that a sense of belonging in a community is a big predictor of success for students. And so that is the foundation that we all work towards together. And then there are 3 key strategies that I would encourage us to use for our students. So the first thing is go to class. The second thing is go to class. And the third thing is, yes, you've guessed it, go to class. Going to class is one of the most important things that our students can do to fully engage, to keep on track, to have that routine, and to be here as a student. I know that sounds like a joke. It's not a joke. Over the next few weeks, there can be lots of ups and downs that our students might experience, but you can help by helping them keep perspective and problem solve, and we're there to help you through that. Thank you. And back over to you, Maddie.
Thank you so much, Kathy. Your insights and your perspective are so valued, especially as someone who is a parent of a recent Queen's graduate. And thank you for joining us and building this atmosphere. Up next, we are excited to bridge all that Kathy has shared with us. And we're going to hear from 2 current Queen's students who have accessed all of those aforementioned campus resources and supports. They will share their perspectives on the transition to university life, the ups, the downs, and how these services have shaped their experience. First, we will be hearing from Cameron. Over to you, Cam.
Sego Guego, and good evening to all of the supporters of our incoming class of students. I am beyond excited to be able to share a bit about myself and my journey to and at Queen's this evening with you all. So to start, hello, my name is Cameron, and I am entering my fourth year of life sciences specialization. Not uncommonly at Queen's, my stories at Queen's started long before I was applying to schools in grade 12. My dad actually graduated from Queen's for both his medical degree and his undergraduate degree in life sciences, and so did my aunt. So I'm what we call a legacy student. I grew up with lots of tricolor socks and blissful stories about my dad's time here, from his time in residence, which was West Campus, by the way, to him going for runs along the pier in between medical exams. I really got my first experience of university in its entirety when my sister went. She's 3 years older, and she got to experience it before I did. She didn't go to Queen's even though she applied, but instead went to a smaller art school in London, Ontario. She loved it, but for me, nothing quite competed with Kingston in the fall and wandering around the buildings that my dad and I should not have been able to get into when I was just a kid. But funny enough, despite the fact that I loved Queen's so much every time I toured, I wasn't sure if I was going to come when I applied in grade 12. I ended up getting into all of the programs that I applied to, with one being a very interesting program at McMaster University. Ultimately, money chose for me. I ended up getting a scholarship here, and the incredible support system that I found in grade 12 to come to Queen's was a big reason that I ended up picking it. And I really would like to thank grade 12 Cameron every day for making that choice, because I managed to find a school that hosts one of the most supportive communities I've ever known, some of the most challenging and interesting classes, and the largest well of opportunity. To kind of start from my first year at Queen's, I ended grade 12 very, very ready to be heading into first year university. And I really took my sister's advice in those first couple weeks at university when you're anxious and stressed. I said yes to everything I was comfortable with and gave every single person the benefit of the doubt. I was in the Smith residence building, which is one of the single plus residences. So I actually had a campmate, and very thankfully, I became very close with that person, and we became roommates in second year, actually. I went to all my classes on West Campus, and I ate lots of pizza with iced tea from the dining hall because I hadn't learned where the salad bar was at that point. As a commitment scholar, I also ended up joining the commitment engagement committee quite early on in my university degree. I truly denote that as a pivotal point in my university career, and I'm not sure I would be who I am or know all the amazing people that I know without it. First year, frankly, for me, passed in a blur. I don't really remember most of it. With exams and traveling and spending hours upon hours with my floor mates in the common room, it was over before I even recognized that it had began. And while I adjusted to first year quite well, I knew many friends who felt that intense feeling of homesickness and struggled with navigating different academic and social demands. But despite my perhaps more easy go of first year, second year really challenged me. And looking back on it now, I can respect how much it forced me to grow as a person. I always tell my Q Success mentees this, but if you don't join anything in first year, that's fine. There's no reason you can't join it in second. And that is exactly what I did. All of a sudden, I was working part-time as a hostess at a restaurant in downtown Kingston. I was a mentor for younger students through the Q Success program. I was building a rocket, which I had no right to be able to do with my previous experience with a bunch of engineers, and balancing 18 hours of class time with what seemed like never-ending homework. I struggled a lot to balance everything, and it made me realize how important it was to cherish those times despite the fact that it was a struggle. And it made me realize how most of first year was review, especially when by the middle of second semester, second year, I was learning about parts of the anatomy that I couldn't even spell. Despite how hard I had to push myself to get through second year, I now have very distinct memories that I will cherish with me forever. I remember walking into the Anatomy Museum, which is a museum in the medical building that is just full of cadaveric dissections and formalin, and having a crazy moment of deja vu. I had actually visited the lab with my dad when I was younger, and all of a sudden, here I was as a student in my second year. I remember living and breathing Stauffer Library and sitting on the fourth floor with one of my closest friends and studying for longer than I cared to admit for a statistics exam that I had no idea I was doing with it. I remember running through my mud during my first time as a Gale, which is a orientation leader, and feeling so proud when I would see my first years thriving later in the year. All of this is to say that despite the very difficult challenges and classes that came with second year, and despite the long winters, and despite the never-ending on-cue assignments, there is no other place I would want to do my undergrad. There is no other team of people I would want to work with than those at the SEO, and there are no other group of friends I would have wanted than the ones who found themselves with me through the strangest occurrences. First year is challenging, and second year is challenging. And transitioning as a general forethought is challenging. But I think your students will learn, just as I did, that the challenge is what makes us better people. And overcoming it is what makes us more resilient. And despite the hardships, the good memories prevail. I want to finish off my little ramble about my couple years at Queen's with a segment of some words of wisdom, which is not as much since I'm only 20, but hoping for some reassurance. If your student comes to Queen's and does not know what to do, that is normal. If they have the most amazing or the hardest transition of their life, that is normal. The best and most helpful thing that you can do during this time is reassure your student that they have the tools to work through said issues. Queen's has an amazing support system on campus, everything from student wellness services, academic advisors, the student experience office, Yellow House, 4D, faith and spiritual life, etc., and several other clubs and opportunities such as Queen's Athletic and Rec and AMS to really help your student find their way and find their community. Your first year will learn what works and what doesn't, and your confidence in their capacity is more helpful and more supportive than any answer you could provide. Encourage your student to try everything academically, even if they're not sure if they're going to like it. Tell them to meet people with an open mind and learn a bit about themselves along the way. Mistakes are inevitable, and the most important part of those mistakes is learning how to manage them. I frankly am so grateful to be able to have so many stories to share to all of my future friends about all of the mistakes that I've made here in undergrad. But I'm even more grateful that I now know how to never make the same mistakes again. So I'll finish off my segment with no matter what your student journey here is, your support and guidance are foundational elements of their success while they're here at Queen's.
Thank you so much for sharing your story with us, Cameron. That was absolutely beautiful, and you exemplify such wonderful characteristics of resilience and determination, even at that young age of 20, like you said. We will also be hearing from Allison, another life sciences student, and I'll pass the floor over to her to share her student story.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for being here tonight. My name is Allison. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Marketing and Communications Student Lead with the Student Experience Office. I'm in my fourth year of life sciences, and I'm incorporating a certificate in law into my life sciences studies. My connection to Queen's started long before I even applied. My mom attended Teachers College here, and my aunt studied English and history through the Concurrent Education program. They shared stories about campus life, transition, and the people. Stories that made me curious and initially interested. When I visited Queens in grade 10, I immediately fell in love with the energy of the campus. Queens felt like a place full of opportunity, a place where I could chart my own path. I'm originally from the Cambridge, Kitchener, Waterloo area, and while I do love my hometown, I was eager to venture out, challenge myself, and find my own community. Queens felt like the perfect place to do that. But I do want to be honest with all of you about how I felt going into first year, because I was excited, yes, but also anxious and overwhelmed and nervous about being by myself without my family. I'll never forget the feeling when my parents dropped me off. As soon as they left, I felt my stomach drop. The nerves hit. Suddenly, something that started as an exciting dream became very real. I was on my own for the first time in my life. The mix of excitement and uncertainty was heavy and new. I had to remind myself that it was totally normal to feel this way. If you or your student feels this way too, you are not alone. I was fortunate that my best friend from high school also came to Queens, but she and I were assigned to different residences. For those of you who also lived in residence at university, you know that different residences can seem like completely different worlds. So although I had the benefit of already knowing someone in my year, I had to make an effort to create connections in my own residence at Victoria Hall. Those simple moments of connection were the starting points that made me feel less alone and more hopeful about what was ahead. One of the first places I found my community was with Queens First Aid, which is a student-run on-call campus response team. Having been a lifeguard during my high school summers, I was excited to hear about this team and loved the thought of making a positive difference on campus. I applied to join QFA in the spring of my first year and finished my training in the fall of my second year. The QFA community quickly became one of the most meaningful parts of my university experience. Joining QFA gave me a sense of family and of purpose. I'm now the QFA Public Relations Executive, which has been an amazing way to give back to the community that supported me back in my first year. Also, having been a member of my high school's student council, I was also interested in student government. I got involved with the Life Sciences Department Student Council, first as a year representative in my second year, and then as the marketing director in third year. These roles helped me to connect with my classmates in new ways and reminded me that building community can happen both inside and outside the classroom. In my second year, I was also a Gale for faculty orientation, helping first year students find their footing, which brought my own experience full circle. Beyond academics, I worked at Common Ground Coffee House, and currently I balance jobs at the Student Experience Office and a lifeguard and swim instructor at the Art Pool. These roles built on skills that I started developing in high school and helped me build confidence inside and outside the classroom and deepen my connection to campus life. I know that all of this and a challenging academic program sound like a lot, and sometimes it is, but the energy of the Queens campus that I felt on my grade 10 visit is very real, and I found that sharing in it in ways that complement my areas of study has been one of the keys for me to feel connected, happy, and a part of a larger supportive community. So when I think back to first year, one of the best pieces of advice I can give is focus on finding small ways to build connections. That might mean leaving your dorm room open so people feel comfortable popping in to say hi, or turning to the person next to you in class to work through a tough lab or tutorial. Some of the strongest friendships I've made started with something as simple as a shared question or a, hey, do you want to sit together next week? There's often pressure to figure out everything right away, to find your people, to settle in, and to know exactly what path you're on. But it's totally okay if that doesn't happen overnight. Also, look at what you already love and feel comfortable doing, and see how you can grow those skills outside the classroom. For me, things really started to click on campus when I found Queens First Aid. Look for what you love to do, and I guarantee you there are people at Queens who love it too. And when things feel uncertain, whether it's academically or otherwise, don't be afraid to reach out. I've used academic advising multiple times throughout my degree. whether it was to make sure I was on track or just to talk through options. Career Services has also been incredibly helpful, especially when I'm exploring opportunities outside of the classroom and thinking about life after graduation. There's so many resources at Queen's, and they're not just for when things go wrong. They're there to help you thrive. Finally, one of the biggest things I wish my families and supporters had known, and something that I came to realize with time, is how important it is to balance support with space. In first year, I was figuring out how to manage a university schedule, build a routine, and make important decisions on my own. What helped most wasn't constant advice, but rather knowing that the people in my life trusted me to find my own way and had faith that I could handle it. That trust meant everything. It gave me the confidence to be independent while also knowing that I had a support system behind me. I didn't only lean on them when things went wrong, I also relied on them to celebrate the small wins, cheer me on from afar, and remind me that I wasn't alone. Sometimes what I needed most was just a simple message, something like, "You've got this," or "We're proud of you." Those check ins didn't fix anything directly, but they reminded me that someone at home was in my corner, and that made all the difference. At the end of the day, the most meaningful support didn't come from people at home fixing my problems, even though I knew that they would always help. It came from listening, encouraging, and being there in quiet but steady ways. So thank you for being here tonight and for supporting your student's journey. We know you've been there for your student for years and that this is another big step you are taking together. Your care makes a big difference, especially from afar. Starting university is a big step for everyone, but you're not doing it alone. Your student needs you. They just need you in another new and different way as your journey together continues. And Queen's has a strong, supportive community with the resources necessary to help your student chart their own path through this exciting chapter. We are so excited to welcome your family to the Queen's family, and thank you all again.
Thank you so much, Allison. Your story and your insights have been so beautiful, and your honesty and perspective really offer such a valuable window into the student experience and all those feelings associated with transition to university life. Next slide, please. Well, everyone, we are going to proceed to the question and answer portion of this webinar. Please continue to use the Q&A feature on the bottom of your screen to send in questions, and feel free to use the anonymous feature as well for extra comfortability. We will try to answer as many questions as we can, and there's a fantastic team on the back end to answer more specific questions in the Q&A chat as well. Next slide, please. While we are doing the question and answer portion, we also have a list of key resources and contact information up on this slide for you to refer to. I can suggest perhaps taking a picture of this with your mobile device, jotting down some of these names, scanning the QR codes, and having these on hand to delve into later. I will now be asking Kathy our first question. We have lots of questions coming in, and many are about residence. When will fees get posted? When will we get move-in details? What to bring, where to buy things, how to store everything, which are such wonderful questions. Kathy, do you want to start us off and share some information about residence and fees?
Great. Thank you, Maddie. And thank you to everyone who's putting the questions in the Q&A. And thank you to the team who is doing such a great job of answering them. So yeah, a few things about residence. So residence fees have been posted to your student Solus account. There may be a few exceptions. If that's the case, you can follow up. But for the most part, they are. The fees will be due September 1, and fall tuition and fees are also due September 1. If your student's receiving OSAP, they are given an automatic grace period between September 1 and October 1 to pay. And then winter term tuition and residence fees are due in January. In terms of coming to residence, for those of you who are moving someone into residence, you're going to be getting specific driving route and check-in information. And the number one thing I would like to reinforce is please follow the instruction and not your GPS. I know it's very tempting to like type it, go into our GPS, get those, your GPS can get you into Kingston, but you can imagine the massive operation it is to move so many people in. So we have worked with the city, we've worked to route everything. When everyone follows that, it is like a machine and goes really efficiently and effectively. So please do that. The more who do that, the better it is for everyone. It has been fantastic last year. It's like amazing to watch, but it requires us all to follow that. And I think you mentioned, Maddie, also a little bit about buying stuff. Like we know that some of you, when you come into Kingston, you'll realize there's things you want. There are a number of stores in Kingston, of course, right? There's some big box stores within 10K of Queens, like right in the city. Walmart, Costco, yes, Canadian Tire, Home Depot. Like if you need fans or mini fridges and things they haven't sold out. There's also, thrift stores like that. There's a big Habitat for Humanity restore. And of course, those things will be available even after. You might want to do it while you have your car here, but students have a bus pass can move around pretty easily to many of the things too. So there's a bit of resident stuff, Maddie.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Kathy. We will be moving on to question number 2. When will students receive their student ID and how?
Yes. Okay. So thank you. So all students will have received several emails over the summer prompting them to upload their photo to their Solus account, right? Because their card will need their photo. And students and residents had to upload that photo before being able to pick their move-in time. So that was the first stage. So all students and residents who have uploaded their photo will be able to pick up their student card on move-in day with their keys at check-in. How easy is that? Now, students who are in our first year off-campus community, they've been provided with information in email, so they should check their email, that they can pick up their cards on Tuesday, September 2nd from 10 to 6 in Bartlett Gym in Mitchell Hall. And if you didn't catch that, it will be in that email they've received. That photo ID card gives your student access to their meal plan, entry into the ARC, like the athletics and recreation facility, into exams and other services. They do need that card. So if you have any questions for whatever reason, you can email our registrar's office, and that's registrar@queensu.ca.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Kathy. Our third question, can we mail care packages to our student in residence and send packages like from Amazon to be delivered to their residence?
Yeah, who doesn't like getting a care package? And I know it's a nice thing to be able to do, and other members of your family might want to be doing the same thing too, right? So great question. So yes, you can send a package to your student using their Queens residence address. So students can pick up mail and parcels at the Watts Hall Parcel Depot, which is on main campus, or if they're on the West Campus, they would pick it up at the Jean Royce Hall front desk. Your student's residence mailing address is their building address that's on the Residence Life and Services website, so you can look that up to get that address. It is important that you include their name and student number when you're mailing them parcels so that they can be properly traced to your student. And the first day that residents will accept parcels is August 31st.
Thank you so much. I know I always loved getting a card or a care package from home.
Right.
Best feeling.
Yes.
We'll move on to our fourth question. Is the gym membership included in the tuition fees?
So access to the gym is included in ancillary fees, which are charged with tuition. So yes. And your student card, which I just said, but as a reminder, that is the access for students to get into the gym. So if you haven't had a chance to go in there and get a tour, I know some of you have, but some of you haven't, there's a pool, there are drop-in fitness classes, there are recreation clubs, multiple floors of fitness equipment. You can try out new things like dance or pickleball or tennis or whatever. There's a women's only section on the 3rd floor, and you can find, if you want to look up what the fall recreation programs are, you can go to the athletics and recreation website. And I know that intramurals are really, really popular, and that's a question we get a lot. And so intramural, online registration opens at 12 noon Eastern time on September the 5th.
Perfect. Thanks, Kathy. Question number 5. I have extended health benefits from my employer. How do we opt out of the health and dental plan?
Yes. And so the health and dental plan is managed through AMS, which is the student government. And you can opt out of that plan with proof of having other, that's the question that someone's asked, right? Is they already have something. So you just need proof of that. And that's not proof of, basic provincial health care. That is another equivalent plan, which often would be, from an employer. The opt-out change of coverage period is September 2nd to the 29th. So it is not urgent. It's through September. You have that time. And the details will be found on the AMS's website. So that's myams, like myams.org. And then once that opt-out is processed, the fees on your SOLAS account will be adjusted.
Brilliant. Thank you. Question number 6. How do I access the form I need to withdraw funds from our RESP?
Yes, it is super easy. Having seen it done in our home. So your student can download what's called the verification of enrollment form right through their SOLAS account. You don't need any signatures. It is just that form that you share with your RESP company or bank. And if you want to figure out how to get that form, there's step-by-step instructions on our Registrar and Financial Aid Services website. So you just go to the resources section, and then it's under forms. Obviously, I guess that I say that, but it's a form. Yeah.
Thank you, Kathy. On a related note, number 7, is it too late to apply for financial aid?
Gosh, no. And I'm so glad that we include, I know folks are asking that question, and thank you, Maddie, for prioritizing that. It is not. And that is something that the university takes really seriously, is making schools accessible as possible. So you can go to the Registrar and Financial Aid Services website. There's lots of information there. You can also connect with a Student Awards staff member through the website, and there's some one-on-one advising. In addition to that, what you can do now, or you can do that after, your student can do after here. On August 30th, on Move-In Day, we are going to have an information tent, which many of my colleagues will be at, including folks from the financial aid office. And so if you have time, after you've done all your move-in settling and things, and your car's moved out of the way, and you followed all those instructions, you can come and chat there and ask any questions you have about financial aid. And you can also ask other questions there for the team.
Wonderful. Thank you. Question number 8. My student is living on West Campus. How easy is it to travel between Main and West Campus?
Yeah.
Do the buses run late in the evening? Sharing more about that.
Yeah. So thanks for the question about West Campus. I'm actually going to start. I'm going to share a quick story. It's not just about the travel between, but I think that sometimes the concerns about travel between relate to, sometimes we know that students some feel disappointed about living on West Campus in the summer before they get here. And I just want to share a quick story that a very dear friend's daughter came here just a few years ago, and she, through all the process, got a residence room on West Campus, and she was genuinely devastated at first. But as soon as she got here and a little bit in, she loved it. She speaks so highly of it now. She built such a community there. I know that you probably heard this in residence presentations as well, is that it's a lovely place to live. And part of it that makes it is that travel between Main and West Campus is very simple and straightforward. So some details about that would be that Kingston Transit, so our local busing, has express routes between Main and West Campus. The buses do run late. A reminder that the bus pass is part of student fees. And so students will just need to tap their student card on the bus. But in addition to the busing, one of the other things is, in addition to busing, lots of students move between, especially if it's at class time, right? So as your students meet other people in their classes or with similar schedules, they'll be moving, in groups back and forth. However, if there's a time when they're not able to move with students they already know, they're also welcome to call Walk Home, which is a safe walk service that we have here at Queen's. And they offer anonymous, confidential, and discreet walks anywhere within a 2K radius of Main campus, which includes West Campus. And they would even come on the bus with a student if that's what they would like.
Wonderful.
Thanks.
Thanks, Kathy. West Campus is its own special community. And as a Coned student myself, I can attest to how lovely it is. We are
Yes.
going to move on to our final question
Okay.
for our Q&A. And we're asking you, Kathy, to share any last words of advice for parents or supporters as they get ready for their students' transition to Queens.
Yeah, I mean, my first thought, Maddie, honestly, is that listening to our two students, Allison and Cam, like I would just really maybe lean in and go back to some of the things that they said. Often at these webinars, I wonder why, I even need time to speak because they say so much of it so eloquently and so from their own experiences. So thank you, Allison and Cam, for that. I think the key thing is that I want to leave everyone with is the importance that we place here on community and everyone being welcomed, and how important it is that we want students to come here, be their self. And that happens through those students making great connections. And what you can do is being in the background with even the small gestures. So whether it's a text or a phone call, the check-ins, it's going to require a really individualized approach to what each student is interested in. But I think from our student stories, they both said that I think Cam's words were that, communicate to your student you have confidence in them, that they can do this. And together, it might be problem solving or using resources, but they can do that, and they will. So thank you.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. I will ask for the next slide, please. And as we wrap up, I want to highlight the move-in information booth. Student Affairs will also be welcoming you to campus on August 30th on move-in day, and you can join them at the Student Affairs tent, which you can see in the picture on the slide, which will be at the corner of University and Union from 10 o'clock a.m. until 3:30 p.m. on Saturday, August 30th. You can drop by and connect with Student Affairs staff and get all of your additional questions answered about financial aid, fees, wellness, accessibility, food, and so much more. While you are there, take a selfie with them, say hello. The entire Student Affairs staff team looks forward to meeting you and is really there to offer that extra layer of support to you on such a monumental day. On that note, I would like to thank everyone for all of your questions. We do recognize that perhaps we weren't able to get everyone's questions answered. And so with that, we encourage you to email parents@queensu.ca with any additional questions or concerns, and they will connect you to the best person, office, service, etc. on campus who is equipped to help you with that. I'll ask for the next slide, please. On a final note, I would like to thank our presenters, Kathy, Allison, and Cameron, for sharing your insights, for sharing your stories, for being vulnerable and creating a space that normalizes all of the ebbs and flows of transition from high school to university life. I'd like to thank everyone on the back end for their support and for their time this evening. And to all of you, parents and supporters at home, thank you so much for attending. Know that the community at Queens is unparalleled, and we cannot wait to see how your student makes themselves at home and will thrive in their new environment. We hope you have a wonderful night, and we will see you in a couple weeks on August 30th for move-in day. Take care, everyone. Thank you so much.